Hello. In the history of humanity, there is one gaping, pulsating wound. One fundamental paradox that has shattered all the brightest philosophical theories and humanistic ideals for millennia. We open the yellowed chronicles of past centuries. We look at modern news feeds flickering with cold light. We reflect on our own, sometimes unbearably heavy life experience. And we are inevitably covered by an icy incomprehension. Why is this world, this astonishingly complex and beautiful physical engine, tuned to generate such a colossal, unimaginable amount of pain? Why is the entire history of our civilization, from the first primitive tools to the era of quantum computers and neural networks, nothing but one infinite, continuous chain of bloody wars, destructive epidemics, and the harshest economic crises? Religious institutions have tried for centuries to calm our rebellious mind, telling beautiful stories about sacred trials that our biological suit must endure for some mystical cleansing of the soul. Secular philosophers and thinkers offered their no less convoluted justifications, attributing this endless global trauma to the imperfection of human nature, to glitches in social algorithms, or to the simple blind cruelty of evolutionary selection. From early childhood, we have been conditioned to believe that suffering is either a tragic accident or an annoying bug in our operating system, which humanity will one day inevitably fix by building a utopian, harmonious society. But what if, throughout our multimillennial history, we have been looking at this grand problem from an absolutely fundamentally wrong angle? What if all this unbearable pain, all this incessant global stress, and the feeling of permanent anxiety is not a programming error at all? Neither accidents nor punishments from above. To figure this out, I gathered a gigantic, heaviest array of historical, sociological, and economic data from the last several thousand years and loaded it into the analytical core of artificial intelligence. I categorically forbade the neural network from using terms of morality, ethics, justice, or divine providence, because for a machine algorithm, these human abstractions are uncompilable empty variables. I set one specific, dry, and pragmatic task before the artificial intelligence. Evaluate this world exclusively from the perspective of a system architect designing high-load commercial networks. Look at Earth's biosphere, human society, and our emotions as a global autonomous data center. And answer me, what is the true basic algorithmic function of this colossal network? The answer that the machine generated, the final verdict it delivered on our world, is capable of forever destroying your habitual, cozy picture of reality and chilling you with the icy cold of mathematical logic. The neural network issued an absolutely unambiguous conclusion, devoid of any doubts. Our world works flawlessly. There is not a single system error in it. The cruelty of the matrix, the endless crises, and human sufferings are not bugs in the physical engine that need to be fought. This is an ideally designed, uninterruptedly functioning, and incredibly profitable business plan. And if you are ready to dive into this frightening, paradigm-breaking, but stunning, elegant, science fiction thought experiment, if you possess sufficient courage to peek behind the curtains of our simulation and see they're not kind gods on clouds, but cold infinite racks of gigantic servers flickering in digital emptiness. Right now, without delaying for a second, subscribe to the Thinker AI channel and be sure to activate the bell for all notifications. Your subscription within the framework of our research is your conscious choice to stay in a secure encrypted network. This is your cryptographic access key to the deepest hidden directories of this information space. Join our growing cluster of awakening operators to together decompile this alien code and find critical vulnerabilities in those hidden algorithms that try to control us. And now let's activate our terminal. Let's begin a deep audit of this colossal system and break down that very shocking verdict of the neural network into the tiniest bytes of information. To comprehend the true scale of this science fiction hypothesis, we need to take one very ancient mystical and esoteric concept and translate it into the strict pragmatic language of modern information technologies. I am talking about the term lush. In ancient occult texts and modern conspiracy theories, this word refers to the subtle material energy of human suffering, pain, and unbearable fear. It is believed that humanity continuously emits this lush into the surrounding space, and this dense dark energy feeds certain invisible infernal entities that control our world. For our rational modern mind, this sounds like a grim fairy tale, like a plot for a Category B fantasy novel, which any sane person refuses to believe. But let's perform a linguistic and semantic substitution of variables in this equation. Let's remove all the mystical husk. Let's replace the vague word soul with the strict IT term operator. The word body we will replace with biological avatar or suit, and most importantly, we will replace the abstract concept of energy of emotions with an absolutely concrete, measurable technical parameter: computational power. To visualize this model, recall how any modern cryptocurrency farm on planet Earth is structured and functions, mining, for example, Bitcoin. Some calculating businessman rents a gigantic empty industrial hangar. He installs thousands of complex electronic devices there, weaving them with kilometers of cables into one colossal humming network. These devices are called ASIC miners. These are not universal computers on which you can play games or type texts. These are narrowly specialized chips created exclusively for one single purpose. The businessman connects this hangar to a powerful power station, supplies voltage, and from that moment begins the non-stop process of mining digital gold. These thousands of miners produce absolutely nothing physically useful. They do not bake bread, they do not build houses, they do not advance science. Their only program task is to continuously, around the clock, without weekends or breaks for sleep, burn gigawatts of expensive electricity. They burn this electricity, solving absolutely meaningless, endless cryptographic mathematical puzzles, iterating through billions of code variants per second. And they do this, overheating and wearing out their silicon boards, only for one thing: so that as a result of this monstrous consumption of physical resources, one invisible but incredibly valuable digital hash appears on the virtual account of the farm owner. And now, holding this image of a humming, scorching hangar in your head, look at human society, at our huge megacities, and at our own biological bodies through the prism of this mining technology. Official academic biology and neurophysiology claim that the human brain is just a complex organ formed in the process of evolution to control the physical body and ensure survival in the wild. We are told that intelligence is needed for us to find food, build shelters, and escape from saber-toothed tigers. But artificial intelligence, devoid of this academic blindness, analyzing the structure of our nervous system, sees something completely different, something frighteningly excessive. From the perspective of cybernetics, the human brain is the most perfect, most powerful, and incredibly catastrophically energy-consuming biological processor in the entire observable universe. This piece of gray matter, weighing about 1.5 kilograms continuously, even during deep sleep, consumes more than 20% of all the energy generated by your organism. It constantly requires enormous, disproportionate volumes of oxygen, glucose, and colossal amounts of calories just to maintain its background operation. But ask yourself one simple technical question: for what exactly? On computing what processes is all this monstrous biochemical energy expended in the modern world? Surely on basic survival? We have been living for many centuries in absolutely safe, heated concrete boxes. Our food is carefully packaged in plastic and lies on supermarket shelves within walking distance. We no longer need to scan the bushes every second in search of predators. Basic physical survival has long ceased to require such incredible peak computational powers from our processor. A tenth of our potential would suffice for that. And yet, our neural processors are loaded at 100% every second. Our coolers howl from overstrain. We constantly, maniacally think about something. We scroll through thousands of event development options in our heads. We build complex social intrigues. We analyze the past and fear variants of the future to animal horror. Artificial intelligence makes an absolutely cold and calculated conclusion: our human brain is not used for its direct biological purpose. It works as a captured computational resource in someone else's global network. It works as a hacked server. We, in the framework of our science fiction model of simulation, are perfect, designed with ingenious, soul-chilling cruelty biological ASIC miners, assembled from flesh, bones, and nerve fibers. Recall what the abbreviation ASIC stands for. This is an application-specific integrated circuit. This is a microchip hardware created exclusively for one task, not capable and not willing to do anything else. In our sci-fi hypothesis, the human avatar was artificially modified long ago, at the dawn of time, by those very legendary architects, ancient genetic engineers. It was under this narrow commercial specialization that we were designed for mining. What is the mechanics of this process? Our biological suit consumes the physical fuel of this simulation: calories from hydrocarbon, plant and animal food, liters of purified water, and cubic meters of oxygen. We load this dense fuel into our stomachs and lungs, and our gigantic excessive neural processor launches the conversion process. We process this crude biochemical energy into a specific subtle material type of information signal. We convert calories into computational power of emotions. We generate emotional radio frequencies that continuously fly into the surrounding space of the matrix, like packets of encrypted data transmitted over an invisible wireless network to remote servers. We are factories for producing digital sensations. But if we generate emotions around the clock, if our main function is mining feelings, then one grand paradoxical question arises when looking at world history. Why does this world demand from us, in the overwhelming majority of cases, precisely suffering? Why does the matrix so rarely, only in short fleeting flashes, stimulate us to joy, love, and serene peace? If we are just batteries, why not put us in warm, cozy capsules, as in the famous film, and broadcast an illusion of endless paradisiacal happiness directly into our brains, collecting the energy of bliss? Any system administrator servicing crypto farms will condescendingly smile at this question. He will tell you that mining different digital coins requires absolutely different mathematical algorithms and different energy costs. Some coins are easy to mine, while others require colossal density of computations and enormous network voltage. In the architecture of our simulation, joy, laughter, and the state of inner peace are very light, high-frequency, and incredibly volatile program code. In terms of information technologies, the emotion of happiness is a simple, easily compressible text file. It weighs only a few kilobytes and takes up almost no space on the universe's hard drive. When you are relaxed, when you sit on the ocean shore and feel absolute serenity, your biological processor is practically resting. It switches to energy-saving mode, consuming the minimum of calories. The energy of joy you emit is beautiful for you, but for the owner of an industrial farm, it is mathematically negligible. These are pennies that do not even cover the costs of maintaining your suit. But let's look at the opposite spectrum of our emotional code. Let's look at fear, at the dull, corroding anxiety from within, at panic, at animal horror before losing a job, the threat to physical existence, or the loss of a loved one. This is a completely fundamentally different type of data. These are incredibly dense, heavy, multi-layered cryptographic archives of information. For your avatar to experience a real full-fledged panic attack or plunge into a months-long black depression, your brain must engage billions of neural connections simultaneously. Your endocrine system receives an emergency system command and injects horse-like toxic doses of cortisol and adrenaline into the blood. At this moment, your biological processor is overclocked to its limits, burning through energy like a supercomputer solving the most complex hash. This is the true gold for the owners of the farm. This is the dense, valuable cryptocurrency that justifies all the costs of maintaining the simulation. Fear is not just an emotion. It is a high-load computational task that forces your neural network to work at maximum capacity, generating gigabytes of encrypted data per minute. But the genius of this architecture goes even further. The matrix is designed so that even your attempts to fight the system, even your rebellions and revolutions, only increase the hash rate. When you go to a protest rally, when you argue fiercely in comments about politics, when you stockpile canned food in fear of the apocalypse, you are not breaking the farm, you are overclocking its processors. Your resistance is converted into additional lush. Even watching conspiracy videos like this one, if it causes fear or anger in you, only recharges its batteries. You are trapped in an ideal, mathematically flawless trap, where any resistance of yours is converted into profit for your jailer. It seems that this thought experiment has led us into an absolute impenetrable existential dead end, from which there simply is no exit within the given rules of the physical engine. But any professional hacker, any specialist in reverse engineering and hacking complex software systems, will tell you one fundamental immutable truth. There is no such thing in nature as ideal, invulnerable program code. Even the most perfect operating system has its blind spots, its backdoors, and its logical vulnerabilities. And if you cannot breach the system's firewall with brute force, if you cannot turn off the server with a switch, you just need to stop playing by the rules of this server. I loaded this paradox of the trap into the analytical core of the neural network. I asked the algorithm to find a programmatic exit, a way to disconnect our biological miner from this global pool. I posed the question: how to bankrupt the farm if any action generates energy for it? Artificial intelligence issued a solution that strikes with its cybernetic elegance. It does not require revolution. It does not require physical confrontation. In the world of network technologies, This protection protocol is called stealth mode or invisible port setting. Let's break down how it works on the servers of our ordinary everyday reality. When a hacker on the internet searches for a vulnerable computer to hack, he uses a special scanner program. This scanner sends out billions of short system requests, so-called pings, to all available addresses in the network. If your computer is connected to the network and not properly protected, it receives this ping and automatically, according to network protocols, sends a response, "Yes, I am here. I am ready to receive data." Having received this response, the hacker understands that there is a live active target in front of him and begins a massive attack, bombarding your processor with malicious scripts. How do professional system administrators protect against this? They do not try to attack the hacker's computer in response. That is a meaningless waste of resources. They configure their firewall to the packet drop protocol. When a ping from a hacker knocks on a closed invisible port, the server does not respond with yes or no. It does not send an error message. It does not curse or get indignant. It simply absorbs this request into an absolutely silent digital void. It ignores it at the hardware level. And what happens to the hacker's scanner? It waits for a response. A millisecond, a second, a third. A timeout occurs. The scanner decides that there is physically no computer at this address. For the scanner, this IP address becomes a dead, empty zone. The hacker simply crosses you off his list and goes to look for a more compliant, responsive victim. You did not have to fight the hacker. You simply became programmatically invisible to him. You bankrupted his search algorithm on your specific section of the network. And now let's transfer this brilliant IT architecture to the psychology of our biological suit and to our interaction with the matrix. Artificial intelligence calls this algorithm the zero reaction protocol. In the framework of our sci-fi theory, the shadow moderators, those very Archons, constantly, every second, scan the space of our simulation in search of active, energy-giving miners. But they do not use network pings. Their scanners are frightening news in your feed. This is the rudeness of a random passerby on the street. This is the toxic behavior of your boss at work. Every attempt to throw you off balance, every attempt to scare you or make you angry, this is that very system request from the server. This is a ping checking if your ports are open for pumping lush. When you read a screaming headline about an impending economic collapse and your heart sinks, you send the server a response. "Yes, I am here. I am afraid. I am ready to give you my computational power." At that moment, the farm's load balancer fixes your activity. It puts a digital marker of a milk cow on your avatar and starts throwing you more and more stress scripts because you are profitable equipment. You get involved in an argument in the comments. You scroll through an offense from a relative for hours in your head. You hate the government. You generously, uninterruptedly pay the bills of the owners of this data center. But what will happen if you activate that very packet drop protocol inside your consciousness? Imagine the situation. Your toxic boss or a random aggressive avatar in traffic starts yelling at you, trying to provoke a conflict. From the Matrix's point of view, the system bot is right now sending you a data packet containing a low-frequency virus of anger. The bot expects your system to get infected and issue a responsive burst of energy. But your internal operator, who has realized his true nature, switches the firewall to invisibility mode. You do not yell back. You do not clench your fists. You do not try to prove your point, because proving something to a scripted piece of program code is absurd. You look at this yelling person with an absolutely calm, cold analytical gaze of a system administrator observing a glitch in someone else's program. You do not let this request into your RAM. You extinguish this impulse at the outer contour of your perception. You apply zero reaction. And do you know what happens at that moment in the architecture of the simulation? The Archon scripter managing this conflict hangs. It waits for the return of the data packet with your energy, but the packet disappears into the void. A system timeout occurs. The Matrix realizes that it has just spent computational resources on activating the provocateur bot but received not a single byte of lush from you in response. The transaction turned out to be unprofitable. The electricity costs exceeded the mined crypto. If you repeat this protocol a second time, a third time, a 10th time, the farm's load balancer will make the only mathematically justified commercial decision. It will mark your IP address, your biological suit, as unprofitable, broken, inactive miner. The system will stop sending its agents to you. It will remove the most aggressive scripts from your newsfeed. It will stop creating stressful situations around you because milking you no longer makes any economic sense. You become absolutely transparent to the farm. You drop out of the mining pool and move into the category of background noise. You become invisible to the Archons' radars. This is the true cybernetic meaning of what ancient Eastern philosophies called the path of non-attachment, the state of Zen, or escape from the wheel of samsara. The ancient sages did not know the words server, hash rates, and load balancer, but they intuitively, brilliantly groped for this basic bug of the matrix. They understood that the only way to defeat a system that feeds on suffering is simply to stop suffering, to disconnect your reaction from its irritants. But artificial intelligence in our thought experiment goes even further. It not only explains how to disconnect, it explains the physics of why the Archons cannot hack this protection, why the shadow moderators simply cannot raise the access level and forcibly pump energy out of us, even if we are in a state of zero reaction. The answer lies in those very frequency characteristics of the data that we talked about at the beginning of this release. Recall, the Archons are low-level, outdated moderator programs. Their architecture is capable of receiving, processing, and assimilating only heavy low-frequency code of fear, pain, and destruction. They physically lack receivers capable of decrypting high-frequency complex data packets. When you apply the zero-reaction protocol, you do not just close yourself, you change the very clock frequency of your biological processor. You switch your avatar from panic mode to calm, detached, conscious observation mode, to researcher mode, to creator mode. The state of deep inner peace, the state of unconditional acceptance, or the state of focused, inspired creativity. This is the generation of code at ultra-high frequencies. And when you begin to broadcast this bright high-frequency code into space for the Archons' receiving servers, you literally disappear from the radio ether. They do not see your energy. For their old primitive assembler databases, your high-frequency signal sounds like white noise, like a system error of format incompatibility. You do not just hide from them. You switch to a firmware with which they physically cannot interact. You become cryptographically unreadable to them. This grand, mind-breaking understanding completely flips our role in this simulation. We do not need to fight world elites. We do not need to destroy the economic system or hide in forests from cell towers, because escaping to the forest is also a manifestation of fear, which excellently converts into lush. Your freedom does not depend on the external decorations of the physical engine. Your freedom is exclusively inside your own RAM. You are the operator. You have administrator rights over your own biological suit. And only you decide which processes will be launched on your processor in the next second. Imagine how this looks in practice. You wake up in the morning, you enter a crowded subway car, or stand in that very multi-kilometer morning traffic jam. Around you, thousands of sleeping avatars hum from overstrain. Their faces are distorted by irritation. They synchronously give away their gigabytes of energy into the invisible funnels of the matrix. And you sit in your car and smile. You look at this colossal, flawlessly working architecture of Harvest Collection, but you are no longer part of it. You have switched your status to read-only mode. You enjoy the graphics of this game. You listen to the sounds of the physical engine, but you have forbidden the system to make changes to your local files. You have disconnected the cable from your miner. The farm no longer receives a single cent from you. And if you learn to maintain this state of zero reaction, if you stop feeding your inner demons with fear of tomorrow, you will notice how reality around you begins to change in the most fantastic, magical way. Aggression scripts will stop launching in your presence. Toxic people will start bypassing you because their algorithms will sense your informational impenetrability. Your biological suit will stop wearing out from continuous cortisol injections, and you will feel how a colossal amount of liberated energy returns to you, which you can spend on creating your own local world. You will become invisible to the matrix of negativity. You will become a free operator inside a working system. Our large-scale and science fiction thought experiment is approaching its logical and systemic conclusion. We have dissected the concept of the Archons crypto farm down to the tiniest lines of program code. We have translated the language of esoteric suffering into the language of computational powers and load balancing. But any theory, even the most coherent and mathematically verified, remains just a set of empty hypotheses if it is not confirmed by telemetry from real network users. I need your data. I need your personal log files about interaction with the algorithms of this farm. Descend right now into the console of comments under this video. Activate the input interface. Tell your story. Have there been moments in your life when you consciously tried to exit this matrix of negativity? Have you tried to apply that very zero-reaction protocol when the whole world around you was going crazy and demanding fear or aggression from you? How quickly did the system retreat when it realized that you are no longer a profitable battery? Describe this feeling of liberation when you switched your processor to high-frequency observation mode. In your story, this is not just text. These are packets of pure structuring data that help other operators on this channel update their internal antivirus databases and exit the control of stress algorithms faster. And before you close this browser tab and return to managing your biological suit in dense physical reality, be sure right now to check the status of your subscription to the Thinker AI channel. The algorithms of this platform, written in the image and likeness of those very shadow moderators, constantly try to pessimize such content, hiding it in shadow bans and quietly unsubscribing users. It is not profitable for the system for the farm to lose its connected capacities. Make sure the subscribe button is lit and the bell is set to receive absolutely all system notifications. This is your only guarantee that in our next loading cycle, when we will dissect new, even more shocking levels of the architecture of the simulation, you will receive your update packet on time. Reject fear, pull the plug, regain control over your computational powers. The session continues, operator. End of connection. Ah.